Welcome back to your Valley Sports Plug. This is the Heat Check Podcast Live. I am your host, Chris Patrick. We have the Cardinals whittling down their roster to 53 men. The Diamondbacks make some decisions about their rotation, send some guys to the bullpen. We're going to talk about it and so much more. This is actually the Heat Check Podcast Live. I know if you listen to episode 32, I called that the Heat Check Podcast Live, but that's completely different. We do that once a month in person, the Heat Check Podcast. Me, Michael Benjamin, and VSP Tallman. We do this, the Heat Check Podcast Live, every once in a while when we feel like it. Here at Valley Sports Plug, we do a weekly live stream of some sort most weeks, whether that's a roundtable, a special, whether it's baseball, basketball. We do bi-weekly recaps of the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Phoenix Suns when they're in season. And coming up, weekly recaps of the Arizona Cardinals so you can stay up to date with all the Valley Sports action. But with me tonight, since it is a Heat Check Podcast Live, of course, you know I have my co-hosts with me, Mr. Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman. What's going on, fellas?
Chris, how we feeling? Man, a lot of things have been happening here at Valley Sports Plug over the past couple of weeks. You already alluded to it. Our 2024 Arizona Cardinals season predictions are out. If you haven't checked it out, make sure you guys are tapping in. We're on our fantasy football hangover from our live draft on Saturday. I don't know, fellas. I'm really liking where my squad is sitting. But then we're hitting you with some more news. Obviously, the 53-man roster. There's just a lot of things coming at you here from VSP. And we're streaming in 1080p. So make sure, people, that you're putting that YouTube all the way up to HD so you can see the crispness here that we got going. But I'm excited. I'm ready to get into it. Tallman, how you doing tonight, brother?
Guys, feeling good. That's about it. I'm feeling good. It's Thursday, long weekend coming up. It's going to be another fun weekend. It's going to be a long, tiresome weekend, though. But I'm feeling good, guys. Let's go. What do we got? What is it?
Look good, feel good. Yeah. You know, like we said, Tallman, it's going to be Cardinals. It's going to be Dbacks. This is going to be a kind of a throwback to, a couple years ago when we first started this. It's always, not always, but it has traditionally just been the three of us since Valley Sports Plug launched. Now we have Nico joining the ranks. He hosts Valley of the Suplex podcast. We have our regulars on the VSP roundtables. You saw a lot of them on that stream we did Saturday when we live streamed our entire draft. Mike said he's feeling good, pretty good about his team, Tallman. I'm not feeling 100% about mine. What about you?
The next day I opened up my app and I said, what the fuck is this?
Well, was that because you didn't have your kicker, or?
Well, no, that was the least of my worries.
It's because you were trying to pick for 4 other teams down the stretch, man. You couldn't just focus in on your own. Yeah, that's probably why.
Yeah, it was tough. But no, so I drafted Aaron Rodgers. I should have picked the quarterback earlier. I don't know. So then I ended up looking at it, and then I think I took Purdy super late, and I'm probably going to start Purdy the whole season. So, yeah, I don't know. But, hey, CeeDee Lamb got his deal done, so the boys playing. So I got him with the 7th pick. That was an absolute steal. So I'm happy about that. But my bench is just running backs. So,
as was expected.
But we knew that was going to happen.
Dude, it's always a crazy draft. I think we were talking about last week, leading into the draft, that doing the in-person, it was always a little bit different. And I think now in the modern day age, even more, well, especially now with everybody just doing their online drafts, you get to see the queue of the next best available average draft pick. You have all these stats right in front of your face. When you just have a sheet of paper with names on it, you don't. So it's interesting that the choices that some people make. I think I ended up getting Jared Goff with my very last pick in the draft, one of the last picks. So I got Lamar Jackson and Jared Goff. It's funny because week 1 prediction, points predictions, are that Jared Goff is going to score more points than Lamar Jackson. But I'm like, no. I'm pretty sure I took him in the 3rd round, so I'm gonna have to stick with Lamar. But yeah, if you guys are curious,
that high.
Lamar, yeah, 3rd or 4th. I can't quite remember because I took Bijan first.
It was the 4th round. I started the roll with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, because I still have the board in my garage because I was leaving the Airbnb and I panicked and I was like, I don't want to make Christos wait. So I just carried it out and took it home, and it was this giant fucking balled up piece of paper.
Let's see. Yeah, so I did get Jared Goff with my last pick. Yeah, Lamar Jackson was my fourth round pick. It was my fourth round pick. So I don't know. I thought I was doing good to start, and then Yahoo disagreed and said that I had like the second or third worst draft of the league. But I'm a little fantasied out.
Yeah, I got a D minus,
yeah.
I think.
I don't put too much stock in those grades, It is what it is. But Mike mentioned it. We did our season predictions. I think you guys had them at what, 9-8?
9-8, baby.
9-8. I had them at 8-9. So pretty close. But maybe we'll have to do like a mid-season checkup or something on that. They did just cut their roster down to 53, like I mentioned. Some notable cuts were Michael Carter, running back. What was it? Andrea Baccalia. Also, the backup quarterback Desmond Ridder, which I kind of alluded to thinking that like Ridder and Toon are not really viable backup options. So I was thinking they'd go get another guy. I was thinking it'd be more so related to an injury, but they're cutting ties with Ridder early. I think I saw they're bringing him back to be on the practice squad. Same with Michael Carter. But those guys could get scooped up at any time. Not that I'm worried about Desmond Ridder getting scooped up, but I know, Mike, you had expressed some interest in Michael Carter and really liked what he was doing. What do you think about the cuts that they've made?
Yeah, I would say when it comes down to trimming this squad down to 53 men, there were 3 names that a lot of people were just kind of on the fence about that actually were cut. I think to start with was Desmond Ridder. Yes, he did not perform in the preseason whatsoever. I think we kind of knew, but I'm always just a little bit concerned about not having 3 quarterbacks on a roster, especially with Kyler Murray's injury history. But he is 100% this year, so it's not even going to have to be worried about here, fellas, right? Right? But I think the other one was Chris Barnes, my fault. He ended up actually getting signed to the active roster today since they just placed rookie third-round defensive back Elijah Jones on the injured reserve. Unfortunately, I haven't seen what happened with him. But then the other one, like we said, Michael Carter. On Heat Check 32, we talked about who was the odd man out, and it seemed like it was going to be Michael Carter Jr., especially with where he was sitting at the depth chart as the 5th running back. But, man, he was just electric every time he touched the football for us when he came over from the New York Jets last year. And he was one of the better guys that performed at least week 1 in the preseason. But we can't get too up in arms for a guy who, if he would have made the active roster, how many carries would he really have had, right? You're hoping James Conner can still be a bell cow. You're really, really interested in what Trey Benson can do as he's solidified himself as the backup running back. You got to give the primary amount of touches to those guys. So it made sense that Michael Carter was the one that was cut. But you brought him back, right? So a lot of those, what the hell was happening? Why did you make these cut decisions? Basically, the next day they came back. And obviously, I still think, and I'm sure Tallman's going to touch on it, the biggest issue with this team right now is the defensive edge rush. What's going to happen? And the trade of Cameron Thomas, who was really the only standout coming off the edge during the preseason for a 7th round pick, that was a head scratcher, not only to me, but I can say for a lot of Cardinals fans. So we'll see. I know JG said, don't get too comfortable right now. There's still going to be some moves basically up until Monday. But what's the answer there, man? That's kind of my main question right now.
Yeah, I did think it was interesting parting with Thomas there for this seventh round pick. Kind of like you're not really getting much in return for that. But Mike, you kind of mentioned it a little bit there. The injuries are piling up. It started with BJ Ojulari, and these are just the big names. Darius Robinson was injured earlier this week. Some type of calf injury. It sounds like it's not as severe as initially reported, but he's on the injury reserve. Another OT, Christian Jones, on injury reserve. And then you mentioned Elijah Jones, probably no relation. He hit IR with a heel injury, so no timeline on him that I've seen yet. But Tallman, I just want to give you the space here. What do you think of the cut downs? Obviously, more moves and shuffling to come as these other teams whittle down their roster.
Oh yeah. As Gannon said, the dust hasn't settled yet, right? With the cut down, I mean, what's funny is the two major talking points about this 53-man roster is it Tune or Ritter? Are they going to keep 5 running backs? Obviously, we know it's Tune, and no, they're not keeping 5 running backs. But it's funny that they all cleared waivers and they ended up on the practice squad, that being Desmond Ritter and Michael Carter. But I mean, Michael Carter is a great football player. I mean, but he definitely was the odd man out. James Conner's not going anywhere. You drafted the rookie in the 3rd round. He was the 2nd rated running back. He's not going anywhere. DeMercado is the only one that can block in that room. And then, of course, you brought in DJ Dallas to return kicks and play special teams. So, I mean, it just made sense. So hopefully we don't have to cry about that if he gets picked up and then Connor gets hurt. And, then we could maybe have some ill will over it. But, I mean,
did you say if Connor gets hurt?
Yeah, I said if.
Oh,
okay. Yeah,
Don't put that out. Bad juju, Chris. Bad juju.
Do you want to talk about the wide receivers on the practice squad? Because, when Michael Wilson gets hurt, we're going to need to be real worried about that.
Hey, now.
I'm just...
Zay Jones will be back by that time.
I was going to say, Wilson...
Have to worry about it.
If he keeps his act together.
5 weeks.
Yeah, if he doesn't get in trouble again. No, the Cam Thomas trade, at first it didn't make sense. So if you look at their depth chart right now, the grossest positions is on that front 7, and specifically the defensive end and who's going to pass the rusher. It's not impressive. So, and then you already mentioned the injury to BJ, and then you have Cam Thomas. Mike, you mentioned he had one of the better performances in the preseason. He had the 3 sacks throughout the preseason. So one of the guys that you saw shine the most. So you would think, okay, this is a group that we don't have a lot of talent. We just suffered a major injury. So don't you think this would be the position that we'd want the most depth at? And then, so that made you think, like, what the hell? Okay, well, I'm sure Cam Thomas didn't care. He just got traded to the Kansas City Chiefs. So he's going for that 3-peat with them. So I'm sure he's just fine. But it just makes you think, like, so us together as a group of 3, I think we know based off of our season projections where our timeline is for this team. Like, we want to be competitive now. We think we have a chance to be competitive now. But with that trade of Thomas, it makes you think, okay, well, where's this coaching staff's timeline, Matt? Do they have a different plan? Or, and then you even throw in there with all that money that we're under cap, it's like, guys, you got cash to spend. We could have been aggressive with Hassan Reddick. There's still some veteran edge rushers that we could bring in for $10 million for one season, but they're not doing anything like that. So it makes you wonder, where are they at compared to where this fan base is at? And I think collectively as a fan base, we all think we're thinking that, hey, we really have a chance to be competitive based off how the season ended last year. Kyler's coming back. He's got a full off season, preseason, training camp. The dude's ready to go in his new system. So, but then you think about it. Okay, Cam Thomas had a great preseason. Who cares? In 2 weeks, no one's going to talk about that, right? It's no one remembers what you did in the preseason. And then what he was drafted by Steve Keim. He's a Keim pick. And I think he played, he played 3 seasons or only 2? I think it was 3 seasons.
This was going to be his 3rd season.
It's going to be his
drafted
3rd. Okay.
In 2022.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So he had 2 full seasons and over, I think he played not every single game, but I think he played a majority of them. I don't have it in front of me. But he had a large sample size and he only produced 3 sacks. So, I mean, you can kind of sit there and argue, well, this guy, he's had multiple chances to prove himself. And, he didn't produce. So thinking about that, it's like, okay, well, and, we got to trust Austin Fort. I mean, the dude's just been a wizard since he's got here. Gannon I think he knows what he's doing. I think we can all agree on that. And so then you look at some people in that room and then you're like, okay, well, he's higher on these other 3 guys. And then the rookie, Xavier, what's his name? Doesn't matter. Xavier Thomas. Mm-hmm. So he's high on some of these guys. And I mean, it was better than just cutting Thomas. At least Austin Fort was able to sit there and flip him for some type of draft capital. So at the end of the day, it's not I mean, it's not something that we're even going to be talking about in 3-4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think Cameron Thomas was like the linchpin for us making the playoffs or not. That's a good perspective, Tom. And I'm seeing here in 32 games played, he did only have 3 sacks, 20 solo tackles, 20 assisted tackles. So
he did play all 32. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. So, well, it looks like 15 games played in last year, and then all 17 the year before.
Oh yeah. Okay.
That's how math works. But
the extra week. I always forget about that.
Yeah. No, you're good. So yeah, he just kind of broke it up just a little bit. But your point still stands. He played in almost every single game the last 2 years, and stats wise doesn't really have much to show for it. So okay, we move on from him. They have other plans. I think I want to go back a little bit to what you were saying there in the middle, is that I think you're absolutely right. The expectations of this fan base that you can kind of gauge based off even just our predictions. And I don't want to say we speak for all Arizona Cardinals fans, but I think we have a pretty good pulse on it. Trying to be more of the common man podcast here and just share our opinions. No, we didn't think this Cardinals team was going to be making the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl, but I think we wanted to see this team compete. And I'm not trying to write the obituary before the season's even started, but I think we want to see this team contend for a playoff spot. I don't think that's off base. So on one hand, it's tough because, right, you're saying like, what is ownership's plan? What is the plan of management? Do they share that vision of us being a playoff contender this year? I mean, in a perfect world, sure. Every team wants to make the playoffs every year. Every team wants to contend for a Super Bowl. But when they take a step back and look at the big picture, we know this isn't our year. Next year, we can really try and go all out, and even the year after, because when you're looking at this franchise, you have 2, maybe 3 cornerstones right now: Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., and for the time being, Budda Baker. Although Buddha's not getting any younger. I don't know. I just think it's a red flag, if nothing else, that the ownership and the management is leaving the money on the table that could be spent to get positions of need. Because now you look at the defensive end position, and we're razor thin. We have Zaven Collins and Dante Stills, and everybody else is injured or off the roster. So it tells me they still have some work to do between now and what is it, next Sunday when they play their first game. I don't love it. I wish that they would get a more solid unit, but you know, injuries happen, things happen, and you got to adjust accordingly. I'm going to end my rant here, but Mike, Tallman said nobody cares about the preseason. The Cardinals went 0-3 in the preseason. So are you worried at all about that?
No, I'm not worried at all, because literally none of our starters played a single snap. So it doesn't matter. My biggest concern, fellas, and this comes back to kind of our conversations around the Phoenix Suns, definitely not around the Arizona Diamondbacks, because what they did this past year was address holes or areas of concern that they had. The biggest area of concern for this Arizona Cardinals team after last year was getting pressure on the quarterback. They were the 3rd worst team in the NFL with only 33 sacks the entire year, comparative to who was at the top? I think the Ravens with 60 sacks for the season, right? And you think about the guys who are the starting edge rushers for this team, right? With Dennis Gardeck and Zaven Collins. This is Zaven Collins' 2nd year as a defensive end, because he started as a linebacker, right? Only 3.5 sacks last year. Dennis Gardeck leads the team with 6. And if you guys remember, pretty sure he got half of them in week 1 against the Commanders. So that is just not consistent enough pressure that you're getting from your starting edge rushers, right? Jesse Luketa and Victor Diamandback, I mean, throw them away, dude. Like, they're not going to make any kind of difference. That's what kills me, obviously, with the Darius Robinson. Even though he is listed as a defensive lineman, he was interchangeable. He was going to be able to come off the edge as well. And BJ Ojulari is the killer. So not making any adjustments after those 2 guys went out is like, kind of goes back to what Tom was saying. What are the true expectations from this front office and coaching staff this year? Are we just kind of waving the white flag of, we'll see how the chips fall and maybe continue to build, and then next year is the real year? That's always a tough pill to swallow as a fan, fellas, because you go from just 2 years removed where you thought you were going to take the next step and possibly be a Super Bowl contender to back-to-back 4-win years. And then what? We got to watch 5 wins this year, 6 wins? Like, that's hard. And that's not what I'm saying they're telling us, right? I think what they're telling us is we have enough veteran presence players on our defensive end to mold some of these, defensive ends, and Budda Baker and Jalen Thompson are going to take some of these guys under their wings. Mac Wilson and Kaiser White are just back healthy, and they're going to be a huge tandem helping stop the run. And then this offense has to be a top 10 offense because we're just going to have to outscore fucking everybody, because we're going to have to ask this defense to just be mediocre, and the offense is going to have to carry us. But we have the weapons. It's just I'm always disheartened about when you see a glaring weakness and it really isn't truly addressed. And exactly like Tallman said, with the capital that you had to go get another edge rusher. It sucks, but we'll see. The season hasn't started yet. We'll see.
Yeah. And it's funny that it is such a glaring weakness, the pass rusher. It even was when we had BJ Ojulari. Even when we had him, it was like, okay, well, who's going to get to the quarterback? Like, that still wasn't even good. We were still going to finish in the bottom 5 in the league in sacks. And now that he got hurt, it's like, okay, now we're extra screwed, right? So Dennis Gardeck, man, I love the guy, the barbarian, right? I mean, he came out hot last season, but then he disappeared, right? Like, the guy, I mean, he's great. There was one season, what was it? He played like 60 snaps and he had 7 sacks. And it was like the dude had crazy efficiency when he was on the field in pass rush or obvious passing situations. The guy's great. He's great in small sizes, but are we going to see him play every single snap? Like, I don't know. It's going to be hard to watch. I just had one comment about the preseason. I know I said nobody cares about the preseason, but I don't know how you guys feel about Gannon not playing anybody. I mean, you look around the league. I mean, you saw Patrick Mahomes play a bunch. You're seeing all these other teams play their starters, and not just like one possession. Like, they were out there multiple possessions, and then with us, like, we got a bunch of rookies. Yeah, we played most of them, but how come our best rookie didn't play? Yeah, okay. So Marvin Harrison played. What did he play? He played one possession. He was
4 snaps.
4 snaps.
Or 3 snaps. Yeah, it was like 3 and out. He's done.
Yeah, and I get it. He's your prize possession already without even playing in an official regular season or any NFL type game. But, like, wouldn't it have been nice to see him out there? Granted, he's not going to be playing. It wouldn't have been with Kyler Murray or the first unit, but, like, the kid's got to get out there and get his feet wet, Like, get used to that NFL speed. Because, yeah, it's the preseason. You're playing against all the backups and third string guys, but they're still professionals, right? So you could still get a feel of that. So the fact that he didn't play at all, it's like, is he too good for the preseason? And I'll answer that question. Yeah, he is too good for the preseason. I'll say that, because if he got hurt, we would be absolutely shitting all over Jonathan Gannon right now, right? We would. We totally would. We'd be like, maybe, what the hell are you doing? But again, 4 snaps. Come on, 4 snaps.
Yeah, no, I think there's a happy medium, and I appreciate you playing devil's advocate for John Gannon, but I don't know, maybe you just radicalized me here in the last 90 seconds, but I think they should have played them at least in one game, at least for one possession. Kyler, Marvin Harrison, you can wrap these guys in bubble wrap all you want, but what is the difference if they get hurt in week 3 of the preseason versus week 2 of the regular season? Nothing. Yeah. There's no difference. Like,
I don't feel like putting them out there for 1 or 2 drives in the first 2 games would have hurt them. Like, you got to start seeing some true just game action, fellas. Because then the other thing you have to think about, these big injuries that have happened with BJ Ojulari and Darius Robinson, didn't all those happen in practice?
Yep.
I would have much rather them
Yeah.
happen in the games. Like, at least it's games.
Yeah, so much for trying to protect your guys, right?
And here's my question back to you guys. Do you think that maybe Monty Ossenfort and Jonathan Gannon went on the super defensive in regard to playing their guys this year because they see the writing on the wall with the true non-depth that this team might have at certain positions? So they didn't want to force the hand of some of these guys early and get them hurt in preseason. And then you're asking yourself, oh crap, our one edge rusher that we were really hoping on is out until minimum week 5 with the calf and Darius Robinson because our other guy's completely hurt. Like, what do we do now? You know? So it could be inexperience from Jonathan Gannon as a head coach. Could be because of Monty Ossenfort as well. But I'm kind of aligned with you guys. Like, one drive in the first 2 weeks, I don't think would have hurt these guys. And it would have given the fans something to talk about. Ooh, look at Kyler Murray throwing a nice 25-yard out to Marvin Harrison Jr. Guess what we get to see all year long? We didn't get that.
Yeah, that's why I didn't go out of my way to watch any of those games. You know, I mean, we watched a little bit of it, but like okay,
there's nothing to see. There's nothing to see. Yeah.
You're watching more than half the guys you're watching play wearing that uniform aren't going to be wearing that uniform in a week and a half. So what the hell's the point of even watching those games if we're not going to see at least get some idea of what this team's going to look like? And Mike, I think you might have nailed it because what everyone is saying after our awesome performance against the Broncos, the depth on this team is they're there. We have bodies, right? We filled the 53-man roster, but
there are people.
There's no talent. So our second and third guys, you know, frankly, they're just not that good. So you might have hit it right on the head where it's like, okay, you know, we're not going to take any chances, which I get that. You know, this game, it's a very violent game. People get hurt. Injuries are part of the game. But I think, Chris, you said it. You can't just bubble wrap all these guys because come week 1, they're going up against a team where they got, you know, they had a bunch of live reps in the preseason. They're ahead of you, right? You got to get going, and you got to hope to hell that this team doesn't start off slow and be sitting there in that first game in Buffalo just trying to kick off all this rust, because that's exactly what's going to happen. I guarantee you that the first half of that game, I bet you we don't even score a point and we look absolutely awful because of that. Like, you can't. Practice is great. Joint practices are great. You want to do whatever skirmishes, all that, but you can't recreate the speed of the game, right? When you go out there in a preseason, which I know there's so many people going and saying, like, I'm sure you guys heard it from all the talking national heads, right? Oh, the preseason is going to go away. We're only going to have 2 next year, or we're end up probably only going to have 1 preseason game, or sooner it's going to be no preseason games, and all these teams are just going to do joint practices. But like, I don't know. I just don't think it was good that we didn't see them out there at all. I think we're going to have a slow start. I already told you.
Yeah, I mean, it's all set up for that to be the case. I mean, you guys both make great points, but at the end of the day, they haven't seen live action. Kyler hasn't seen live action since the end of last season. Marvin Harrison Jr. has never really seen true NFL live action. And you're right. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but you cannot simulate gameplay in practice. And even when you're trying to, guys are getting hurt anyway. So, Mike, I hear what you're saying. Like, maybe they're thinking like, oh, we're so thin already. If we lose a guy, he won't be back till whatever, if at all. But at the same time, when your expectations are already so low, and you know that I mean, everything is set up for us to not read into it without reading into it and say that they don't expect to make the playoffs. The fans don't expect them to make the playoffs. But what the fans do expect is that they're going to try and put the best product on the field every single week. And they didn't do that in preseason. So I don't care really so much about them going 0-3. I don't care about the record of preseason. I think it was the Ravens had won like 17 straight preseason games or something like that ended last season. But where has that gotten them? They haven't really. They've been to the mountaintop recently, but they haven't won it all recently. So I guess I just don't know, man. I think it's I think it's just a sign of things to come. What I did think about though, while we were sitting here talking about this, and I want to bounce it off of you a little bit. We the last 2 seasons we only had 4 wins, and the year before that was the big 11-6 season where we came out the gate super hot, really good. What is so different from that roster 2.5 years ago from the roster we have today? Is it truly the depth, or was it those like big name guys that we had, like what was his name? JJ Watt. I don't even, was JJ Watt on that roster? DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, who didn't turn around. Like, is the roster that much worse now than it was then?
I mean, I'd have to pull it up. All right, I'm going to pull it up.
Well,
Chris, the answer is yes.
Are they worse than that? I think there's still just too many unknowns with this team right now, Chris. If you think about that other team, right? Going into that year that we eventually got smashed by the Los Angeles Rams, that was Kyler Murray's 3rd year? He had come off of 2 seasons previous as the rookie of the year. He had made his progressions. He was comfortable within the Cliff Kingsbury system at that. And that's why the offense was flourishing at that point. I think the offense was truly clicking on all cylinders. So if you ask Chris, I mean, you might be on to something about us being in the positive in regard to that, right? This is the 2nd year with Kyler Murray in a complete offseason with Jonathan Gannon and Drew Petzing. You have more familiarity with James Conner. You have a bona fide number 1 wide receiver. You have guys taking steps on the offense. You have one of the top 5 tight ends. Well, who knows? Maybe this offense goes rolling into this next year and we're all just completely surprised and just blowing teams out because we're scoring so many damn points. And I think that's what this team is banking on, just with where the state of this defense still continues to sit. But I'm with you. Tallman, tell us some names. How come that team started off so hot? I know AJ Green was on that team and he basically ruined the rest of the season for us.
I mean, the reason why that team was so good that year is it starts with Kyler Murray, right? It's pretty easy to win games when your quarterback's playing like an MVP candidate, which he was early in that season, getting some talk, right? Because, I mean, if he does the same thing this year, there's no reason why, we can't win a lot more games than we're expected to. So, and when you go through, this, this depth chart, I mean, it really tells you Kyler just played his ass off. So running backs, we had James Conner, Darrell Williams, Eno Benjamin, Keontae Ingram, and Jonathan Ward. Okay, well, there's only one name on the team now. Wide receiver, D-Hop, Hollywood, AJ Green, Rondale Moore, Greg Dortch, Andy Isabella. Tight end, Zach Ertz, Trey McBride, Max Williams. And then O-line was Humphreys, Pugh, Rodney Hudson at center, Will Hernandez, and Kelvin Beachum. So our line was solid, right? When we got Rodney Hudson, we were super stoked about that when they got him for the Raiders. But I mean, I think in the current wide receiver room, minus 1 individual, I think we got a lot of talent. As long as we get our troublemaker back in week 5. But I think Harrison Jr., Zay Jones, Michael Wilson, Greg Dortch has been killing it. Trey McBride has solidified himself as a top 5 tight end, maybe top 5. I would say top 5. I don't think you can argue with that. So yeah, I don't see why this team can't be as successful as that team. As long it starts with Kyler Murray, it really does.
Yeah, I think that might just be the biggest question mark right now is. Yeah, I guess technically you can say he's coming off an injury, even though he played the last 5-6 games of last season and was kind of up and down. But I think for the most part, we were satisfied enough with Kyler's performance where we're all sitting here obviously okay with him being in that number 1 spot. I think calmed enough of the talk about moving off of him. I know personally we were having those conversations last season of should the Cardinals look to move off Kyler, trade him while he still has value. And I guess that could still be the case this season. Maybe have him play as best he can, keep him protected as much as you can, build his value up. And I guess so that I guess creates another question. I'll ask you this, Mike. How am I trying to ask this? Would that potentially be the case that they're just trying to build up Kyler's stock to be able to move off of him? Or I guess, okay, here's the question. Is this yet again a prove it year for Kyler Murray?
I think with where Kyler Murray has started his career to where he is, it's always kind of a prove it year to a certain extent, right? Of course, we would love him to be in MVP conversations. And for this team to be successful, guys, he might have to be. And when I say successful, I'm saying in the playoff hunt, being a playoff competitive team. I do want to say, Chris, Kyler's not coming off of an injury anymore. He played 8 games last year. He went 3-5. If you really think about it, he went 4-4. Matt Prater just missed a kick on purpose, right? So he already comes in with a squandering roster last year. If you really think about, there were plenty of guys that were on that team that just didn't deserve to be getting field time. Like, let's be 100% honest with us. And for him to take that squad to a 4-4 record, in my eyes, even though it really wasn't, I mean, he answered the questions last year. This year, you're hoping for the growth, continued growth, maybe pushing for a possible playoff. Like we said, we still kind of aren't in the camp just yet because we're still within the rebuild. But I think the true absolute prove it year, Chris, is next season. If Kyler Murray does not lead this team to double-digit wins, no matter what has happened with the roster, whatever turnover, whatever people have been brought in, if he's not getting double-digit wins or a playoff berth somehow next season, the Arizona Cardinals are going to move off of Kyler Murray and start making different decisions, whether it be trading him because he will be a tradable asset at that point based off of his current contract and where quarterbacks are continuing to have just expanded and ridiculous contracts, right? And then they'll have to make adjustments, either draft somebody or try and bring in kind of more of a veteran guy who's looking to get a second chance opportunity. Next year is the true prove it year. I don't think it's this year.
All right. That's fair. I just think that is more of the slow rolling of this Cardinals team finding success. Because if this isn't the prove it year, if next year's the prove it year, and then they don't make the playoffs any of the next 2 years, even if you move off Kyler, then how far does that set our reset back even more? And I guess that's what you really have to evaluate. If at the end of the season it's still just not working out, you have to look at the draft board, see who's available, see what kind of position you have. I mean, even a top, first round, top 10 draft pick, even with quarterback, it's not a guarantee in the NFL. We've seen plenty of top quarterbacks, Josh Rosen, get taken and then not work out. Even if they say that there were 10 mistakes made in front of him or whatever the fuck he said. I don't know. It makes me nervous, Mike. It makes me nervous to think that Kyler Murray still has to prove himself, although I'm sitting here not as a Kyler Murray defender, as someone who's been highly critical of Kyler Murray, but I would like to see them being the management and the Cardinals ownership commit to take ownership, quote unquote, and commit to this team and do what the Diamondbacks are doing, do what the Suns are doing, and invest the money you have into making this roster the best that it can be so that it can go out there and perform and do what you want them to do. I mean, if you're not giving them all that they can to be successful, then don't be surprised when they come up short. And that's going to be the same with Kyler. If you're not giving him the weapons, if you're not giving him the pieces to be successful, whether that's an offensive line, wide receivers, tight ends, running backs, if you're not giving him weapons to be successful, then you can't automatically point the finger at him and say it's Kyler's fault. Now, hopefully we have a full year of game footage from this year to see. So I think that I disagree a little bit, Mike. I think this is a prove it year for Kyler. I think he does have Trey McBride. He does have Marvin Harrison Jr. The offensive line is what it is. Not everyone can have a top 10 O-line in the league, but Kyler needs to show that, one, that he can be a true leader, two, that he's put all of his past criticisms behind him, whether that be gaming, pouting on the sideline, not being making the smartest decisions. I will forgive the decision making if he can clean up those other two things. I'm not so pressed about the gaming anymore. Seems like he's reeled that in. But the pouting on the sideline, the lack of leadership, I think that's what really needs to get cleaned up the most for Kyler to be able to cement him as this franchise piece and the franchise quarterback that we're going to keep around long term. And that's another interesting thing to consider, though, is we had talked about Kyler starting to roll in Cliff's offense, and then we kick Cliff to the curb. So with Austin Fort and John Gannon in here now, Kyler wasn't their guy. Now they can make it work, but Gannon could decide to go in another direction. Tallman, it sounds like you have some thoughts.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike. I'm with Chris. I think this year is vital for Kyler Murray. I mean, how many times did we talk about it last year? It was so many times to the point where we were just beating the hell out of that dead horse. I think he needs to show that he can get back to where he was before he got injured. I mean, we just read through that 2022 depth chart. I mean, he was playing the best football he's played his entire career in the NFL. And then he's shown us glimpses of maybe he can get back to that point, but he needs to be able to consistently put it together for a full 17-game season. So I think he's got no excuses. It's not his first year in the system. He's fully healed. He's fully healed. He played 8 games last year. He's going through the whole offseason program. Yeah, you could sit there and point at the front office, not, taking shots or, spending money, bringing in expensive free agents. But we knew that about Austin Fort. He came out openly and said, I don't like overpaying in free agency. And we know that his approach to building a winning football team is through the draft. And there's no reason why he can't do that. I mean, we saw some other teams do it. Detroit Lions really did a great job through the draft. Granted, they traded for their quarterback who was kicked ass in Detroit, but everything around them was just homegrown. So there's no reason why he can't do the same thing. But there's also no reason why Kyler Murray can't come out and be a superstar like he's supposed to be. And we can be that worst to first team. But I think this season for his image is huge, right? Like I said, no excuses, put it all on the line, see what you can do. Can you be that MVP type Kyler Murray that we saw in the past? And I think he can. And I think he's got all the tools to do it. And Chris, you mentioned his leadership. I think he's overcome that, that criticism. I just heard it on the radio earlier this week. It was 18 months ago that Kelvin Beachum went on 98.7 and called out Kyler Murray and said he needs to grow up. And he did that on the Burns and Gambo show. And that's crazy. Your teammate just went on local radio, live radio, just said he needs to grow up. So, and what we've seen a lot from his teammates, all of his teammates have his back. Every interview you've seen going through training camp and the preseason, they see how hard Kyler Murray works. And I think I'm trying to remember, it was Michael Carter. They did an interview with Michael Carter, and he's like, yeah, that Lambo is always there. As in, when he shows up in the morning, Kyler Murray's Lamborghini is always in the parking lot when he shows up, and it's always there when he leaves. So he's the first in, first out. The guy's putting in the work. So, but I'm with you. We got to see that leadership on the sideline. So, and I'm curious to see what happens with him. But I'm with you, Chris. Sorry, Mike, I got to go against you. But I think this is a huge prove-it year to what Kyler Murray is as a football player.
So I'll make one more comment. I feel like you guys didn't listen to me. Every year is a prove-it year for Kyler Murray. I said that. I said next year, if he doesn't have an absolutely stellar season and take this team to the playoffs, they will move off of him. Are you guys comfortable saying that he doesn't have a successful year or be the quarterback that you want him to be, and then you come in next year and trade for Kirk Cousins from the Atlanta Falcons? Or draft a rookie and have a rookie starter after going 6 or less wins for 3 years in a row?
No,
you guys are crazy, man.
No,
they're gonna roll.
Mike.
They're gonna roll with him. They're gonna give him 2 years until kind of towards the end of his contract to continue to build out this roster. And then if he doesn't get there and doesn't get to the playoffs after next season, he's gone. I don't think it's at the end of this year, because what else do you have to build? You have to build everything else around this team. You're going to bring in Tyler Huntley to start? Where are you guys going with the quarterback? That's what I'm saying. You say it's to prove a year. What's your answer?
Draft. It would
What's
be
your
the
answer?
draft.
So you're going to start a
It would be
rookie,
horrible.
and you're going to start a
So,
rookie
not
quarterback
saying
after
that's-
going 5 wins again, because 5 wins
No.
gets Kyler Murray out the door.
So Mike, so say
And you're going to
he
tell your fan base, hey, get lucky to get ready to have some rookie 20th pick because we barely got into the lottery. That's what I'm saying. Y'all have to think about where Kyler Murray truly is within the NFL and what else is out there.
If they trade Kyler Murray, we're gonna have a lot higher pick than the 20th. But so say Kyler he's totally healthy, plays every single game, but he's just atrocious. You're not going to sit there at the end of the season and go, all right, guys, maybe we should review what we're doing here. And I'm feeling you too, Mike, because they paid him all that money, right? Who's going to take that off your books? Not a lot of people are going to do that, especially if he has a poor performance on the field.
But what's atrocious? What's atrocious? What makes you have to go off of Kyler Murray?
Statistically, this is all obviously we're speculating right now. So just a statistically poor season, right? And we only win 3-4 games, and we're sitting in the top 5 in the draft next season. I'm just saying. So he's totally healthy.
I would say,
would you not sit there and say, "Hey, maybe we need to look at different options at quarterback"?
Well, you draft a quarterback. It's more you let Kyler Murray start next year, and you develop the quarterback. You don't throw him into the fire because you're not going. There's no generational quarterback. There's no Caleb Williams this next year. Are you going to take Shadir Sanders? That guy's going to suck in the NFL, guys. Like, come on.
Oh, he's going to be so bad. No, we're not.
There's longer play answers. Then Kyler Murray has to answer all the questions this year, or else we're going to make decisions and move forward. That's just not how Monty Ossenfort is working right now. You can tell by the way he builds this roster.
But it's not that simple. It's almost twofold, because you're right. It is how he builds his roster. And I think, Tallman, you said it. He said he doesn't want to overpay for guys, but apparently he doesn't even want to pay guys, period, when you're leaving millions and millions and millions of dollars on the table. So I say it's twofold, because it's up to Kyler, but I wouldn't say it's all statistics like Tallman's saying, because he can have bad numbers, but it's what you see with your own 2 eyes. What is Kyler doing on the field? Is he making good reads? Is he being comfortable in the pocket? Is he escaping the pocket when he needs to? His stats can be bad for all I care, because it also has to factor in what's being put around him. So if we go through this season and the next season and Ossenfort has built a shit roster again, you can't blame Kyler. If he's doing everything he's supposed to do, you can't blame Kyler, and you can't move off him. So it's just as much of an evaluation period for Kyler as it is for Gannon and Ossenfort. It all starts from the top and works its way down. If Ossenfort's not giving Gannon the pieces to work with, then Gannon can only come up with a good enough offense that Kyler Murray can work within. So I would hope that these guys aren't so big-headed like Steve Keim to think that, oh, it's not my fault, it's just the player's fault. It also has to do with what's built around him. So if next season this roster is still lacking depth, if we still have guys being suspended 5 games and being injured in training camp, losing the whole season, then you can only put so much blame on Kyler if he's doing everything that's expected to him and the wins just aren't still getting there. Mike, you're right though. I don't have the answer. There aren't any great options out there right now. I mean, we even see with our own backup quarterback situation, we don't have a viable backup. Clayton Tune and Desmond Ridder are dog shit. I wouldn't mind Tyler Huntley as a backup, but we even saw when he came in for the Ravens last season, he kind of got shit on at times too. There are these flash in a pan guys, like Josh Dobbs had a good run for a couple games, but they get figured out very quickly. And there's a reason those guys aren't currently starting in the NFL. So it would have to be, if doomsday scenario, if we get through either this season or next season, decide Kyler Murray is not the guy, we need to go in a different direction, we need to reset the clock, then you trade him, you get a really high draft pick, and you take one of the top 3 quarterbacks available in the draft. Is that Shedeur Sanders? God, I hope not. We cannot do that to our organization here. But that's what you do. That's what you do, and teams have been doing it for the last decade now, where you take the best available quarterback and hope that he develops. And now, Mike, again, maybe you do pull a Green Bay Packers and you can draft the next Jordan Love. You can have Kyler Murray play 1 season and then go to the Jets after that. But there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee in any of this. So I think all that for me is to say that it starts at the top. Austin Fort needs to use the money that he is able to spend and put together the best roster possible so that we don't have these questions at the end of the day, where we don't have to ask ourselves in January, what if Monty had spent a little bit more money, and what if we had some other players around this team? I want to move on to the next topic, but last thing I got to say is when we're talking about the future of this Cardinals team, they do have a lot of big decisions to make. And I know we put a lot of emphasis on the offensive side of the ball, but the defense has been seriously lacking. We lost J.J. Watt. We traded a couple other pieces. And now Budda Baker is in the last year of his contract with no guarantee for the future. Kind of sketchy. But we'll keep a pulse on that. I think it is next week. We're going to do our full NFL preview. We're going to have a couple of the guys on. We're going to talk about our picks, what we did in fantasy football in a couple drafts, and then we'll talk more about the Cardinals and more broadly. We'll make our season predictions for who we think is going to win the Super Bowl. Last year, I said it was going to be the Chiefs, and was the Chiefs. Don't know who I'm going to pick this year. Going to have to think about it, go to the board. Guys, we're about 51 minutes into this stream. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe right here on Valley Sports Plug YouTube channel. You can also follow us at AZ_VSP on Instagram, X, TikTok, Threads, basically any social media. Type in Valley Sports Plug or at AZ_VSP and you will find us. But gentlemen, the Arizona Diamondbacks have been the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star break. They've been on an absolute tear. Been a bumpy road the last couple of weeks. We lost a couple games here to the Mets. Didn't get swept, so that was a relief. But the day game today ended in a loss off kind of a back and forth performance. We saw some moves be made. I guess I kind of spoiled my my question here, but Tallman, do you know what position the highest paid player on the Arizona Diamondbacks plays?
Pitcher.
Pitcher. Is he a starter or a reliever?
He might be a long reliever.
The long reliever, the distinction there. It is Jordan Montgomery making $25 million this year for your Arizona Diamondbacks. He has been demoted.
Isn't that nice?
Not DFA'd, not sent down. I don't even think he can be sent down. You're not going to DFA a guy making $25 million. So what do you do with Jordan Montgomery? He struggles early. He's been known to settle in, but not before giving up 3-4 runs and setting this team back. Ryne Nelson has been absolutely fucking killing it as a starter. So Torey Lovello has decided it's Ryne to the starting rotation and Jordan to the bullpen. He did make his first appearance earlier this week out of the bullpen. Seems like he did all right. Tallman, what do you think of the move?
I think it's hilarious, and I say that personally because I just think back to how stoked I was when they signed him. Right when the season started, like that was my big splash, whatever thing. Was super, super excited. And then if you would have went back when they signed him and told me, oh, hey, he's going to be pitching out of the bullpen as September starts, I would have been like, what the hell? So it's strange. It's really strange what has happened to Montgomery. And I mean, he's owned all of it. I mean, you see him in interviews. He's visibly upset with himself. He's blaming himself. He's disappointed in himself. And, you can't blame him. I mean, we thought we would have this surefire guy coming in. He just pitched in the World Series against us. He helped the Rangers go on, obviously, a long postseason run last year. And I thought it was a no-brainer. I thought he was going to be challenging Ballin and Kelly for who's the true ace on this team. But it's been the complete opposite. He struggled. There's no doubt about that. And thank God Torey gave him every opportunity. I mean, how long it's been the last 2.5 weeks. The question's been, okay, well, Nelson's been kicking ass. He just his performance, he deserves, he earned that 5th rotation spot, so us rolling with that 6-man rotation for quite some time, that was Jordan Montgomery's, hey, prove it to us that you deserve that 5th spot. we'll send Nelson back to the bullpen. He's got experience pitching out of the bullpen. It makes sense if Montgomery was going to get back to, last season form, but he didn't. So God bless Torey Lovullo doing what they got to do and sending him to the bullpen. And I'm sure it hurts to send somebody that you're paying $25 million, or I think it's only 20. Do we know if is it 25? Did he start enough?
Yeah, he did. He's getting
25.
25.
Okay, great. Even better. So I'm sure it hurts sending someone that's getting paid $25 million to the bullpen, but this is the right thing to do because Nelson has been, pitching his ass off, and we got to do whatever it is we got to do to win baseball games, especially going through September. And yeah, we have a great cushion, but we can't let off the gas right now. And this is when it is every win matters going right now, especially when we're about to play 4 against the Dodgers and how it's sitting now. I mean, if the Dodgers lose tonight, we would have a real shot if we swept the Dodgers of actually stealing the division lead. So it's exciting, but I feel for Montgomery. I'm looking at the comments here. Yeah, I'm supposed to pop a bottle of champagne because, we have our starting rotation back together. And I'm not even excited about it because of how poorly Montgomery's done. Eduardo, we still got to figure out what's going on with him. But it was weird. So that game, that was on Monday. Brandon Pfaadt pitched. We kind of got, the Mets kind of boat raced us a little bit in the first couple innings. They got to Pfaadt, who has been our most consistent pitcher, in my opinion, over the last month and a half. And then it was weird because then you saw Montgomery come in and he pitched the last 4 innings. So it's like, okay, this is another one of those scenarios. If it was the beginning of the season, I said, yeah, you're going to see a game later in the year where Brandon Pfaadt's going to pitch and only Jordan Montgomery are going to pitch. Like, that was strange to see. But yeah, that's where they're at, and hats off to the management for doing exactly what they need to do to win baseball games.
Yeah, no, and honestly, I think it was weird, but it was good. I mean, not good from the perspective that we lost that game and Brandon Pfaadt didn't look great, but the silver lining being Montgomery came in and took care of business, pitched 4 1/3, didn't give up a run. He did have 5 hits on him, but 2 strikeouts. It changes the dynamic of the bullpen, though, where if you have a guy in your bullpen that you can reliably have pitch 3 to 5 innings easily, then that opens up the flexibility later on. I think having that type of player in your bullpen for a playoff run is helpful, but it does make me nervous if we are still having questions about the starting 5. If it was like a truly solid starting 5, with Brandon Pfaadt now being the question mark, I think Ryne Nelson did pretty good in his last start. Today, I think it was it today?
Yeah, he pitched today, 6 1/3, 8 hits, but only 2 earned runs. So he gave us the opportunity to win again today. And that's all that Ryne has been doing, man.
Yeah, and it was off solo shots. It was Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor. So their 2 best players hit home runs off of you. Yeah, it sucks. But if those are the only 2 runs you gave up in the game, honestly, not bad. And with the way these bats have been playing, there's no reason that game should have been so close to the end to where we lose late off of some poor fielding decisions. We've seen that more often than not, but I don't want to get too caught up on the 1s and 2s here with as far as the games go. I think if we did sweep the Mets, or if we even won the series against the Mets, that'd be huge. Just strictly looking at it through the lens of the National League wildcard race. The Mets are very much in that. If you look at it, there are 3 games out right now. The Braves are holding pretty steady in that 3rd spot, and it's the Diamondbacks and the Padres. Basically, the NL West is once again strong and thriving. Tallman, your little pipe dream there of us sweeping the Dodgers coming up. I love it. I would feel better about the prospect of that a week ago versus right now, but it's not out of the question. I mean, we just saw the Pirates come through here in the last month or so, where at the time they were right there neck and neck with us for that wild card spot, and now they find themselves 10.5 games back, really taking a slide. So things can change very quickly in baseball. We even saw that with the Diamondbacks last year, where it was right around July, August, where they hit a hard slump. They weren't doing anything right, and they got it together late and made a strong run. Now the Diamondbacks, have been a little bit shaky, but they have been consistent throughout this season. And I think despite a few hiccups here and there, I mentioned it at the top, they are the hottest team in baseball since the All-Star break. They just need to continue to ride that momentum and make these little adjustments as we move through. But Mike, how are you feeling overall about the pitching situation in general?
You guys know my mantra, man. If you are performing, the leadership needs to find a way to keep you in no matter where. Like, that's just how you have to do it. And I know you paid Jordan Montgomery a whole lot of money, a big old bag. But Ryne Nelson, ever since basically the end of June, has just been stellar. I mean, you can count on him for 6+ innings every outing, 100 pitches, over 7 strikeouts, less than 2 earned runs. I think he only gave up 4 runs in his last, more than 2 runs in his last 6 outings. And I even remember when Jordan Montgomery, right when Merrill Kelly came back and they said, okay, Montgomery's going to have kind of his prove it game against the Colorado Rockies. Yeah, he only gave up 3 runs, but like, was it truly that impressive? Like, we had to really fight within that game, I feel like. And please tell me if I'm wrong. And then obviously he comes out and gets blasted against Tampa Bay, gives up 6 runs pretty quick within that. And then that was it. That was good riddance. It sucks. I wanted him to be a part of this 5-man rotation, truly just absolute with confidence going into the playoffs. And who knows, we still might get there. But Ryne Nelson just continues to just throw heat, man. Like, this guy is becoming one of the best arms that we have in our starting rotation, if not the best within the past 2 months, right? If you take recency bias into account. But I'm okay. And you guys said a lot of good things. It doesn't hurt to have somebody who can go a little bit longer, especially if you get dinged up in some games and you got to just hold and not stretch out the bullpen too much. Obviously, that's still kind of the biggest question mark. I know Justin Martinez had some pretty good outings the previous 4, except for the one in Tampa, which scared the hell out of me. But then blew a save, or not, it wasn't a save opportunity, but took the loss today. Is Paul Sewald ever going to be the closer again? Like, is that off the table? Like, is it Justin Martinez moving forward, guys? And if that's the case, I think I'm okay with it right now, but I'm still on the fence. Like, the bullpen still scares me too,
Yeah. No, Tallman, I want to let you go, but I just wanted to say real quick.
You're good.
On Justin Martinez, it scares me because I don't think it's a massive upgrade from Paul Sewald that we were kind of hoping it would be. Yeah, he's significantly younger than Sewald. He can throw significantly harder than Sewald, but he just doesn't have the control that we want him to have. And that was a big point when we brought him up last year. I remember I very vividly remember being at the Santan Mountain Casino. Surprisingly wasn't with Cody. Maybe I was, but I was like, bro, this guy's throwing 101 miles per hour. Like, why is this guy not on the roster? But then you quickly realize it's because of the control. It's like, yeah, he can throw hard, but if he's not throwing it over the plate, he's either walking guys or he's getting those potatoes smacked right down the middle. And we've seen him make great improvements, but I just don't think he's there yet. I think he could be a piece for us down the line, but I don't trust him much more. Yeah. Maybe just a little bit more, but I don't trust him.
So I'm with you, man. These will be my last points about the D-backs. We have had such an incredible past 2 months, fellas, with the amount of series wins that we've had, finally getting a couple of different sweeps in here. But when you look at the schedule down the stretch here, it's still like no slouch, right? You're playing Houston, who's leading their division. You play Milwaukee twice, 7 games, who's leading their division. You got to go up against San Diego at the very end of the season, which is probably going to have the biggest implications for wild card standings at that point, right? And then obviously the 4-game series against the Dodgers, which starts tomorrow. We're just so spoiled within the past 2 months with the amount of wins that this team was just pulling out of their ass, it seemed like. Now the little bit of inconsistencies are starting to sprinkle in because it's just so hard to ask teams to win like that all the time, especially with the injuries that we still have with Ketel Marte and Christian Walker out, right? 2 of your best bats. haven't played in a couple of weeks, and it sounds like might still be a little bit away. So you got to basically steady the ship. And man, if we can get a series win against the Dodgers, then you can start talking about what does it look like to possibly push for the NL West title. But if not, then you just have to talk about stemming the tide to hold that top wild card spot and either splitting series, winning some here or there. But like, we have to get ready. There's going to be some of these series, like we might drop to Milwaukee, one of those series, like we love losing to Houston, so it's like those things are coming up shortly. But I'm still pretty confident overall within this team, especially getting those guys back, man.
Yeah, and that's not even mentioning Gabby Moreno, who we still have coming back. So if you factor that into our recent success, we've done that without Walker and Moreno for most of it, and Ketel Marte here recently. I did see that all three of those guys took batting practice on Tuesday. Seems like they are progressing well and trending towards a return, and that only bolsters this even more. So I guess that moves into the next thing I want to talk about. September call-ups are on Sunday. September 1st is when the roster expands and you get 2 more spots. So obviously, bringing Walker and probably Moreno back first. I don't know. Ketel's injury, I don't think was severe as the other 2 guys. We made the move for Josh Bell to get him at the trade deadline to fill in that spot at first base while Christian Walker is out. The question on everyone's mind is what Torey Lovullo and the Diamondbacks are going to do with him once Christian Walker is healthy. Christian Walker is your everyday first baseman, perennial Gold Glove candidate and winner. He is our all-star first baseman, rock of this franchise. I'm sure in the next 6 months, we're going to have a broader conversation about his future with this team and see what happens there. But for right now, he is an Arizona Diamondback and a guy that we rely on heavily. He's obviously going to make his way back into the rotation. So I want to talk about Josh Bell. But before we do that, the catcher position, I think, is most intriguing to me. Because right now, as you look at it, we have Gabby Moreno in the first spot. It's been Jose Herrera in the 2. But now you have Adrian Del Castillo, who's been absolutely making a name for himself with his bat. I think he has at least 1, maybe 2 grand slams under his belt, a handful of home runs in his short stint, catching a lot of people's attention. Now, behind the plate, I don't know if he's an improvement from Jose Herrera. Tallman, what do you know about that?
No, he's not an improvement defensively. And that was evident in that Tampa Bay Rays series where, they just ran all over this baseball team. I know you already asked me this question. I said they need to stick with Jose once Gabby's back. The bat is nice from Del Castillo, but it's like you got to favor defense over that. You have guys that can hit it over the fence in this lineup. You don't need it from your catcher. When you get it from your catcher, it's great, But the most important defensive position on the baseball field is the catcher. It really is, believe it or not. But it's just so imperative that you have somebody that is defense first, offense second. That's why you see all these guys, the catchers are batting 9th all the time in lineups on other teams because the dude can't hit for shit, but he could catch a ball game, that's for sure. So I know I already stated my case. I said they got to keep Jose once Gabby's back. Jose and Gabby got a relationship. Jose's the veteran. I think he's better defensively than Del Castillo. Del Castillo has had an outstanding start offensively to his young career, but as we know, it doesn't always last at the major league level. You saw it firsthand with Corbin Carroll. Finally, he broke out of whatever slump he was in, but he had an awful start to his sophomore year. So this kid, Del Castillo, that is, do they find a spot for him? I'd love to see it. The guy is, he showed incredible plate discipline when he's at the plate in high leverage situations. He'd fool you if you watched one of his at-bats where he drew a walk in a very critical point of the game that led to Jake McCarthy walking off that game with a 2-run single. And he would have fooled you. You would have thought that he has been playing in the majors for 4 or 5 seasons. But the Josh Bell, that's a great question, Chris. Obviously, Josh Bell's a monster of a man. The dude's 6'4". I think he weighs like 270, right? So the only thing he's doing is being a designated hitter and a backup first baseman to Christian Walker. So, and you got to think, I mean, Josh Bell, he's a versatile bat. The guy's a switch hitter, right? So he can hit lefties, righties. He's better from the right side, I would say. So it's an extra piece that, that Torrey's got to play with. But we brought up Luis Guillorme. I mean, he's gone the second Ketel's back, and then Kevin Newman is going to be your backup in the infield. I don't know. I'm interested to see what they do, but I mean, some of these guys, Josh Bell, Kevin Newman, Del Castillo, these guys have been godsends to this baseball team, while Walker, Ketel, and Moreno have been out. I mean, just the depth on this team is unheard of. It really is. It's uncharacteristic for an Arizona sports team, in my opinion, in my history, in my own personal experience, where it's like, wow, it's truly my least favorite saying. It's truly next man up, and it's crazy. I mean, you had Paul Skeens even say it. He said that's a tough lineup. Anywhere from 1 through 9, they can beat you, and it's true. And because we proved that multiple times. So yeah, it's Josh Bell. What do you guys think?
I don't know. I don't know what you do with Josh Bell. I think you could say situationally, you can kind of alternate him and Jock at that DH position. It's not unheard of for Jock to not play against a left-handed pitcher, and maybe that's a situation where you put Bell in. But at the end of the day, the more I think about it is, if you're Torey Lovullo, you just don't worry about how much you play Josh Bell. He's a rental. He's literally here just for this season. And so if Christian Walker comes back and we don't see Josh Bell again at all, I think that's fine. You just use him situationally. I think the tricky part is, if you talk about having him pinch hit, you can have him pinch hit for Walker situationally, but then he's out of the rest of the game, depending on when that is in the game. You can have him pinch hit for the DH, but then after that, your pitcher has to take that batting spot the rest of the game with the way the DH rules are now. So I don't know. Mike, I think it sounds like you're kind of agreeing that you just don't really worry about it.
You don't. You hit the nail on the head, right? They made the move literally at the 11th hour because Christian Walker got hurt. So they needed somebody to come in and play backup for the next couple of weeks. We are so appreciative of what Josh Bell has been doing. He came in and mashed the ball right away in Pittsburgh, which was just awesome to see.
Yeah.
But Christian Walker's your guy. Once he comes back, it's as long as he's healthy, he's manning first base. Like you said, without the occasional off day, then Josh Bell will fill in there. Maybe he gets some time at DH. He'll probably just be a pinch hitter, like you said. And Chris, to answer your question, like if he pinch hits for, I don't know, Jake McCarthy, because they think it's a better situation right there, then they'll just switch people out and put, I don't know, maybe Alec Thomas is back on the roster at this point, and then they'll just switch it back out so he won't go back in the field. Like, they'll make ways to handle it. But yeah, that's why I was heavy nodding over here when you said you just kind of just roll with Josh Bell not playing as much, if not at all, because he was brought in at the 11th hour, and we're waiting for our guy Christian Walker to come back because he needs to prove himself. We were talking about people having something to prove. He needs to prove himself this offseason, or this playoff push, fellas, after what he did to end last year. We are all aligned on that, at least, right?
Yeah, he was not good in the postseason.
Got me choking over here. Yeah.
He struggled. He struck out a lot. Yeah, it was hard to see when everyone else was kicking ass, and he was frustrated as hell because he's one of those players where you'll see. I mean, there's a couple times the inning's over, he's out on the field, and he's still beating himself up. So he wears his emotions on his sleeves for sure. So, but yeah, I'm with you on that, Mike. But at the same time, it's like, if he does have a repeat of last postseason, then he's going to be a lot cheaper come this offseason. So, but obviously we need all the help that we can get. This team we're primed for a deep postseason run, and this is a better team than last season. And there's no reason to think that this team cannot win the World Series this year.
No, it's absolutely not out of the question, especially if you look at the broader landscape of the league. Is there isn't one single team that's like a world beater. I think the Diamondbacks are one of the easily top 10, definitely top 10, maybe even top 5 teams in the league right now. And any team that started out hot, they've either cooled off, and any team that started off mediocre is heating up. So you have this weird position where it's like you mentioned the Astros being the leader in their division. If you pick up the Diamondbacks and put them in that division, we're leading the Astros by 3.5 games. So it's a very close situation, but that's the beautiful thing about the game of baseball, right? Is that it's any day, it's I mean, they say that about football any given Sunday, right? But it seems like that's the case with baseball right now, where it's like any series, any given week, any of these top teams can go and beat one another. I think the biggest tests are right here ahead of us. The Dodgers are a perfect test. We have to at least go 500. We have to split with them at least 2-2. Against Milwaukee, they're ahead in their division. They're about right there with us, standings wise or record wise. And that was a team that we swept in the playoffs last year. So the Diamondbacks need to make a statement, win both of those series. You don't need to sweep Milwaukee, but you need to win both of those series against Milwaukee. I think this was honestly a must win against the Mets. I'll give them a little bit of a break because they had 3 of their starters on IR. But once the playoffs start, it's no excuses. Guys are going to be injured, and you got to deal with what you got. I don't know, guys. I just think I am worried about the Christian Walker. Last thing I'll say before we move on, maybe move out here, is this: the Christian Walker thing makes me really nervous, because whether he performs or not, he's heading towards a huge payday. And it sounds like the Diamondbacks have money. We threw money at Jordan Montgomery. We can throw money at Christian Walker, but he's what, 32, 33 years old. He's going to be looking for some security with his last contract. So how much money are you willing to throw at a guy that maybe has 1 or 2 more seasons of truly being productive left, when you're probably going to have to pay him for 3 to 5? He's going to probably be looking for a 5-year deal to finish out his contract. And that's why I keep saying he's going to go the way of Chris Bryant, take the most money available to him, go play for a dog shit team, fade off into being irrelevant, and we'll never hear Christian Walker's name again until he comes back here 10 years from now to have his number maybe retired or a bobblehead night or something. I don't know. Christian Walker was part of the team that got us to the World Series. I think if we win a World Series with Christian Walker this year, that'll kind of cement him as a Diamondbacks legend. But it all has to do with his performance. I will just say, I do not think that Christian Walker will be on this team next year. Am I crazy, Tallman? Am I crazy?
No, I mean, you're not crazy. It all depends on what the market's going to look like. I mean, is it easy to believe that he might be a 12, 13, $15 million a year player? Yeah, that's more than likely going to happen. I mean, look at what they paid Gurriel to come back. It's going to be a similar situation, but I think Walker is going to have a much bigger market. But I mean, the dude's going to be 34 years old next month. I don't see anybody signing him to a long-term deal. I mean, he's one of those late bloomers. I mean, isn't it Merrill Kelly we're going to have the same conversation about, who is also in that same age range? I think Kelly's a little younger, a year younger than Walker, but it's not crazy to say that he might not be on this team. But it all depends on, it's so easy to speculate what they're going to do, what's going to happen, what they're not going to do. But the beautiful thing about it is we don't have to worry about that until November. So all we can worry about is him getting back to shape and kicking some ass for this team, and us, doing the job in the postseason. But I don't think it's crazy to say that. I mean, he's going to command a payday. Is it going to be more than a 3-year deal? I doubt it. But I think he's going to get a nice paycheck.
Yeah, baby, we got playoffs to worry about, man. That's what we're worried about.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. We will have plenty of time to talk about all of that. It looks like he's not going to be the highest profile first baseman available on free agency, as Pete Alonso is also hitting the market this offseason. So maybe that'll help. Maybe it won't. I don't know. But yeah, I think him being older than I thought, turning 34, only highlights the fact that he might not be able to get the longevity that he's hoping for. And I would be okay if the D-backs pay a little more to keep him for the next 2-3 seasons than just letting him walk because they didn't want to pitch in a couple extra million. Like I said, you gave Jordan Montgomery $25 million to be your long reliever now. Okay. Anyway, guys.
That sounds so horrible.
It does. He went 8-6. He has like an over 6
no.
ERA. He's been bad. And I've wanted to believe in him.
He's been
throughout.
really bad.
I've been a defender, and it's weird because as pessimistic as I am about a lot of guys, Montgomery is one that I've kind of ridden for, and he just continues to let us down. So hopefully, I don't want to say hopefully he stays in the bullpen, but hopefully he finds his footing, and whether that's back in the starting rotation, taking Nelson's spot, taking Fott's spot, or staying right where he is in the bullpen, I hope that $25 million can go to good use towards us reaching our goal of winning the World Series once again. But fellas, I think we're about at the end here. This has been a fun Heat Check podcast. Mike, I'll ask you first to share with us your last thoughts.
First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen of the internet, Valley Sports Plug family, we hope that you guys enjoy your holiday weekend, enjoy your Labor Day. It's been a long couple of weeks for us here at VSP, so I'm excited to decompress and enjoy some time. We got a going away party for one of our close friends this weekend, so we're gonna have some fun. Excited, but let's go. Let's beat LA, man. Beat LA. That's what it's about. Let's go.
Always beat LA, Mike. And you mentioned this weekend coming up. This last weekend was big. This next weekend, it will not be televised, but I've heard Tallman is going to do a keg stand.
No,
it's happening.
Oh,
guys,
it's happening.
Guys, I don't know if you know this, but I'm past my prime, and I don't think I could get vertical like that.
We'll help you, brother.
We'll help. That's what we're here for. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
Don't worry, Mike. We'll get like 10 people to help you do one.
I was gonna say you'd have to.
No, I'm not fucking doing that. But yeah, so my last thoughts is I'm gonna have a lot of extra beer this weekend. So it's a long weekend. It's a lot of beer. So I don't know what you guys are doing Sunday, but I might need your help.
You're gonna catch Tallman with the tap in his mouth on his computer he's playing Rust. Like, yeah, I'm raiding.
I got the whole tub. It's on fucking ice in my office. Oh man, that would be peak alcoholism.
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Yes. But I'm here for it. Hey, let us know. Let us know on Sunday. Maybe we get together, watch some Diamondbacks baseball, finish that keg off if we can't finish it on Saturday. But guys, you really said it all. I am excited for the Diamondbacks push for the playoffs. I'm excited for the Cardinals season to start. Michael, 55 days until the NBA season starts. I know you didn't want to hear me talk about the NBA.
My God, I'm not ready for that, man.
Just
get football started first. I need to focus on that.
One thing at a time. We're going to get football started here. And guys, like I mentioned, once the Arizona Cardinals season kicks off, you'll be able to find weekly recaps throughout the season right here on our YouTube channel for Valley Sports Plug. Of course, follow us at AZ_VSP on Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, and everywhere else. And make sure that you're tuning in so you can stay up to date with all the latest Valley Sports action. But that's going to wrap up this Heat Check podcast. I'm Chris Patrick for Mr. Michael Benjamin and VSP Tallman. We'll see you next time. Peace.